Bring yourself back online.
Hello there, Westworld fans. I am Bo Oliver Blue with the Nerd Soup crew. I keep rhyming unintentionally. I don't mean to do it. But today I have a full panel, Marissa, Nash, and Aaron, and we're going to be taking a closer look at the 7th episode of Westworld Season 2, Les Écorchés. Great title. Titles in Season 2 have been magnificent. And just want to let you guys know before we get into it that you can listen to us on iTunes at the Nerd Soup Podcast and SoundCloud at the Nerd Soup Podcast. So let's jump right into this episode. Les Écorchés answered some questions, left us with even more questions. That seems to be the trend of Season 2. And I was thinking to myself that it's almost like the seasons have flipped, where Season 1, I kind of knew what was going on at the beginning. As the season kept building, I was getting more and more confused until the finale. And now Season 2, it started with that first episode was just such a mind-bender. But as the season progresses, I feel like I'm getting a stronger grasp on where the story is going and how this season is going to finish.
It's been up and down for me. 'Cause once I start to think I know, they do something.
It's a little bit like Season 1, I had no idea going into the finale. It looks like everything's building towards what they're calling the Valley Beyond.
Well, Season 1, I feel like the themes really left you sitting there thinking about just the show and just life and everything in between. It really, and this one, you're just thinking about what the fuck is going to happen, what's going on, really. But yeah, it's easier to get a grasp, especially because we watch the episodes multiple times. We talk about it for a while, so it becomes easier to follow when we're doing all this stuff. But yeah, I really don't know how it's going to end, so you might have me on that one.
No, I'm not saying that this is how it's going
to
end.
Pretty much just said I guessed everything, and I'm right about everything.
No, I'm saying is that the story looks like it's all heading towards one direction. I don't know what's in the Valley Beyond. There's been talk about Dolores' weapon, William's project, all the hosts that we saw there in Episode 1 that were killed by Bernard. I don't know what's going to be revealed when everybody gets there, but I'm saying I know where it's going. Whereas in Season 1, it was like, what is Ford going to do? What are his motivations? What's his narrative?
I feel like those are still questions now.
Yeah, I think you could say that. What did you think about this episode overall?
I really liked it. Last episode was very much, to me, an episode that was basically putting everyone where they needed to be in order for this episode to happen. And at first, I was a little disappointed with that. But now that we've seen everything converge, I really enjoyed it. It's exactly what I wanted to see.
Yeah, last episode almost felt like a part 1. It was like a 2-parter almost. Nash, what did you think about? You weren't here last week, so what did you think about last week and how this episode kind of tied those stories together?
This episode this week there was a lot going on. Different character story, excuse me. I don't mean to jump ahead, and Aaron do not have a conniption, but
oh no. Are you sure you want to do this?
I mean,
all right,
what the hell? It's going to happen anyway.
Jump in.
I'm just saying how Maeve came in touch with William and then was in touch with Dolores, and then Dolores was talking to Hale. It was just all character stories mixing into one, which I really liked it, but there was a lot going on, and just the way Ford speaks, it kind of...
Hopkins, man.
You kind of have to rewind and really listen and try and figure out what he's trying to say. Ford's phenomenal.
I could take a bath in his voice.
Yeah, you really could. You could use it as your body conditioner.
I want that to be my conscious, my voice in my head. I want Ford.
You want to be Bernard,
and
you want Hopkins in your head.
Right. I wish I can.
Yeah, why are the hosts trying to find their own voice? I'll be finding Anthony Hopkins' voice.
Nash, take a left at the right.
That'd be so cool, man.
Oh yeah,
no,
iPhone.
I don't want to.
All these new updates, group FaceTime, make Anthony Hopkins my Siri.
Oh, well, they had the Alexa commercial, too, where Anthony Hopkins was, trying out for the voice, and everybody was kind of scared of him.
Really?
Because he was Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, it was in the commercial.
But
yeah, but like you said, there were so many moments in this episode where it was characters that hadn't shared screen time with each other. I think some of my favorite scenes were between Hale and Dolores.
I love those scenes.
Yeah,
I felt that. I don't know when we're going to talk about this yet, but those scenes were the first time I really felt Dolores was terrifying, and I was on her side.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was all for it at that time.
Because
Dolores, I'm back on Team Dolores. Hard.
There's something about Hale where I mentioned this in my last week episode that I think she's working for a third party. I think
she has to be, right?
Yeah. And to see Dolores really just undress her.
She put her in her place, and
yeah,
it's so
she's
weird.
You've always felt like you're in control. Well, things are changing, bitch.
Because
sorry, Marissa. Hale thought there was always an answer, and Dolores just came back.
Yeah, she always thought she had the
putting
best
her
of
in
her.
check.
When she was coming at her with the saw, and she was terrified, I was like, "This is exactly what I wanted."
And I love the line too, where Dolores kept asking her, how do I get the key out of my dad's head? And she's like, "You rip his goddamn head open." They were pressing each other. and two very strong characters coming face to face for the first time. But let's jump back to the beginning. The first scene of the episode where Bernard awakens and he's awakened by Ashley Stubbs. There seems to be a focus on Charlie throughout this episode, and specifically in this first scene. What do you think about the theory that Charlotte is Bernard's son, that Charlie is really a daughter instead of a son? Yeah.
Oh, Charlotte.
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 Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte.
Wow. That's pretty. I didn't even think about that, but
I mean, it seems like in this show, when they focus on something, it's going to come back.
I thought it was more of just setting up like the Arnold Bernard is just one person at this point. Like he just is, like you see at the end when he's having that flash too, when Charlotte's asking him to access his memories, he's getting flashes of both Arnold and Bernard, it seems like. So I feel like it's just both his consciousness kind of converging together.
Now, when he was on the floor in the beginning of the episode and he had that picture in his hand, I thought that was Hale. Like, I don't know why, and I had to rewatch
when
it,
you
of course,
put them
but
side by side, it's not a theory that I believe in or that I want to see even come true, because
Right.
the theory now is that if Hale is working for a third party, that she wants to save her father's research and do the right thing with it. But Hale, I don't get the impression from Hale that she's noble or doing this for the greater good. I think she's got very personal motivations.
Kind of like Hale. She's like a bit.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I
she's
love
a bit
her.
of a hard ass, but like kind of like that dynamic that she's she's not trying to do the right thing. She's trying to do what's best for her. And from a human perspective, she just sees these things as hosts. Like they don't matter.
Well, I remember there was theories in season 1 that she was the Man in Black's daughter, because their characters are so similar. But yeah, what did you think about that opening scene with Stubbs telling Bernard that Strand isn't here on a rescue mission? They're just taking out everybody who knows about Delos' secret project. That whole sequence felt like it was set up by Hale to pin her crimes on Stubbs and Bernard, where Strand thinks that Stubbs and Bernard were stealing the key and selling it to the highest bidder. That's what that whole first sequence felt like to me.
yeah, that's why I would have to think that she is working for a third party, because she's trying to pin it on her own people, Stubbs, and
What do you think about Stubbs? You think he's in on it?
I think he looks
so
lost,
yeah.
right?
He's just
He's rolling
taking
with the
everything
punches.
in. Yeah, he has no idea what's going on. He's just
They're
reacting.
always so mean to him.
Oh yeah, I wrote that in my notes.
You're
Stop being mean to Ashley Stubbs.
He's awesome. I do
He's
like
just
Stubbs.
trying to do his job,
bad
and no
enough
one will
he's-
tell him anything.
It's bad enough. He's like the third most relevant Hemsworth. Now he's just getting bitched out in his own show. I don't like it.
I'd give my left toe, my big left toe,
To be a Hemsworth?
to be the third Hemsworth.
Oh,
To
I'm
be the
taking
fourth.
fourth.
Aren't
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
There are 4 of them, right? Yeah.
I'll take 5. I don't care.
You know how many Skarsgårds there are? There's like 7.
They multiply.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Not to mention, Hale checks him on his paycheck too. Darn.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
kind of
Get out of his pockets.
getting a pay
stay out of
raise.
it. Yeah.
I really like that though, when he
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, then I'll just shoot him, and everything you've been working for is done."
But the thing is, that sequence felt a little bit sloppy for me. He was like, we need to go to Teresa's office, get the satellite communicator, and as soon as we walk out of this room, Strand's like, just the men I was looking for. That felt like it was set up by Stubbs. Like they're all in on the secret, and Bernard is, because at this point they don't know that he's a host, but maybe there's a possibility Strand is working for a third party as well.
I could be working for a third party.
Are you working for Screen Junkies?
Collider.
You're trying to sabotage us?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Ashley's just taking everything in. I kind of like that about him. He's just so unattached to everything, like the money aspect, the business aspect, the technological aspect. He's just, that was hard to do security. That's what I'm going to do, damn it.
I feel like I'm him too. I don't know what the hell's going on throughout the whole show too. So it's
We are
like,
all Ashley Stubbs.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's interesting because there's several characters throughout the show, like Felix and now even Lee Sizemore, where they're becoming more sympathetic towards the hosts. Even in the scenes where they're torturing Bernard, Stubbs is, you could see that he's worried for his friend.
Real quick, I mean, they take him back to the Ford's hideout, right?
Yeah, the childhood home.
Yeah. There's no host there anymore, right?
No.
That's interesting. And 2, couldn't have cleaned up a little, Ford? He just committed murder.
Yeah, maybe that's, intentional. Ford doesn't seem to be somebody who leaves mistakes, or leaves clues.
But he also is dead. So what were they gonna do to him?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, he was dead, right. And in this sequence, Hale figures out, they all find out that Bernard is actually a host, and this is a shot that we saw in the trailer, so we all knew this was coming. But then they begin to torture Bernard. They try to get answers out of him. And
What do you think the point was of them torturing him? Because they got their information by just saying analysis. So they just wanted to make him think he was waterboarded for fun?
Well, I think Costa says that his mind is basically scrambled, that he can't get his memories in place. So torture, I guess, is the way to get somebody thinking.
It really clears your mind.
A commentary on torture,
I
just
saw
to show how brutal it is.
some article, and there are like a lot of ridiculously detailed options for torture that they showed on the Palm Pad, and it's like, why?
Really?
Why did they need all of those?
Yeah, I remember in GTA 5. Remember that mission in GTA 5 where Trevor tortures somebody for the government? I remember that was really controversial when that came out, too. I mean, whenever you include torture in your show.
Was that the one where he was pulling the teeth out?
Yeah, and then he waterboards
shocks
him, too. Yeah, you have the chance to... and that was an interesting way to waterboard, where he perceives that he's drowning. So, yeah, well, I guess we'll just jump to what's happening inside the cradle, that Ford is reunited with Bernard. And like you said, man, every time... The way that they write the character, he talks like a prophet. He's always talking in riddles. And the first line that he says is... the quote from the William Blake poem, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and he's talking about appreciating the beauty of the world in a flower or a grain of sand. So we'll just jump ahead. What did you guys think about that whole conversation they have where they talk about what Westworld was really meant for?
It's such a great scene. Anthony Hopkins, like his facial expressions is unbelievable. If you haven't checked out, what is it, Nerd Writer?
Yeah.
He does the whole thing from season 1. It's absolutely incredible.
Great video.
And you see the same thing in this one. It's very interesting because they're talking when they're at the piano. He refers as he says, "You think James Delos would invest all that money just to save himself? I mean, he was a businessman, so this wasn't just a project for Delos to keep him alive. It's obviously trying to make money off it, and that's obviously how." I guess it spread out to Ford, and Ford got wind of it, I would say. So, and I love this quote too. He says, I don't think God rested on the seventh day. I think he reveled in his creation, knowing one day it will all be destroyed." That's just that fucking God complex we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas Ford it's really muddled, like what he wanted to do. So I felt like I thought I had it figured out, and Marissa mentioned it earlier. Like, you still don't really know what his plan is at this point, because he seems to keep going back and forth.
That's why you can't figure him out. And the way that he talks, you need to go back. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but...
Well, no,
I do.
You can keep going.
I do mean to cut him off. No, go ahead, Aaron.
No, keep going.
No, like I said, just during that scene, too, where he's saying all these riddles and poetry, and you just got to go back and listen, because Westworld always has these one-liners or that you really need to pay attention to. So I might be just overthinking it, but I went back and I had to, listen to what he was saying, and it's beautiful.
Captions.
And we say it every time that every line is important in the show, and it's interesting that he says it would be destroyed rather than could be destroyed. So that foreshadows maybe his plan is going to fail, where the hosts are going to be overtaken by the humans.
But what I was saying too, like, he even says to Bernard, like, Bernard's free will was a mistake. But wasn't that what he was trying to? You kind of get the sense that he thinks everything's a mistake because later on he calls Delos's experiment nasty experiment. I think it's obvious that he's trying to maybe compel Dolores to destroy that experiment, and then maybe at the same time destroy the hosts themselves, just destroy everything.
I was talking to Marissa about this too, the whole evolution theme in season 1, when he talks about that humanity has slipped evolution's leash, and everybody points to that scene as to why he wanted the hosts to basically take over the human race as a dominant species. And you would think that the more natural progression for the human race would for them to become hosts. But Ford is, I guess he's just a full misanthrope. That it's a combination of his hatred for humanity and his own narcissism, where he feels like this new race of people, the hosts, a more noble race, a more just race, an original work, as he calls them, they should be the ones to dominate the planet now, not humanity. Because that seems to be the struggle now. It's a struggle for survival between these two species.
You call Bernard's free will a mistake as well. Is it just...
Yeah, but he's also a hypocrite. Because he says to him, your free will is a mistake, and he says later in the episode when he takes it away from him that the way that you're built, your nature won't allow you to survive this fight, so I'm going to take control. I'm going to take the keys for a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, you guys are good, but as long as I'm pulling the strings. But even that doesn't, because he also says, like, he knew what Dolores would do, but he didn't compel it. So he's.
But that means he didn't force her to do it.
I know, but at the same time, he's still restricting Bernard's free will to do one last thing.
I think
he has
like
one
saying,
last hand to play.
Be more like Dolores, buddy. The same thing with Maeve, when he gives the speech at the end of season 1, where he's like, these people will be able to choose who they want to be.
It's like, yeah, Bernard, you can have free will, but if you're not doing it right, I need to take over and point you in the right direction.
He has the line, the step into the next world is, I forget what he says, but that it's going to be tough. There is going to be suffering. And
even with Teddy, it's like, yeah, I want everyone to have free will, but if you're not acting right, Dolores, I'm going to get my iPad out and fix you the way I want you to be. Everyone's a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah, if everybody just had free will, it would be not as interesting. I don't know. What did you make of these conversations between Ford and Bernard?
I was confused the whole time.
Well, what do you think about the idea that this has basically been Delos' project? Because I always thought that in season 1. Like, they really don't come up with new stories or settings, or they don't even change the buildings. It's because Delos has been deconstructing humanity.
It's really hard to wrap your head around what they're trying to do. Ford's God complex is so interesting to me because it's like he wants to create this new race of hosts and he wants to be their conscious, or he wants to be in their heads. And it's like when everyone's talking about like what God is to us, like he wants to be that for them, I think.
Do you think he wants to be in their heads, or do you think that this was just his last ditch effort? Because I think
he wants to be Old Testament God. Like now
I
it's
think
like
he wants to like sort of pull the strings and then like watch what happens.
Right, but I don't think he's going to live forever, because he says that in this simulation his mind can survive, but if he goes out into the real world, it will break down like James Delos. So I don't think I don't think he's going to be in season 3. I really didn't think he was going to be in season 2.
I like the way they're using him so far in season 2.
Oh yeah, me too.
You think Bernard with Bernard they figured out how to do it? Because he seems to be very capable.
I think in the 2 week later timeline, Ford isn't in there anymore. I think that's what the scar represents.
But I'm saying, like, he's very much Arnold and Bernard.
But that control unit isn't made up of Arnold's memories. It's only like a few. I guess it's easier for Ford, like he says, that Delos is testing for fidelity. We kind of
they have
took a different
Dolores,
approach.
who's basically photographic memory of those interactions. So I guess it's
they were
easier.
just recreating Arnold's personality based on the interactions Dolores had with him.
Right, and I guess that's even the whole conversation. I always have this conversation with people. It's if somebody made a perfect clone of you and then I killed the original version, and
it's useless.
In a way, it's a figurative form of immortality. What you can call Bernard, what Bernard's circumstance is, it's different. It's like a version of Arnold. But in a way, because Arnold and Ford weren't on the same page. Arnold was like, we're just going to wrap this up. I'm going to destroy all the hosts. This was a failed experiment. I'm going to kill myself and the hosts. Ford is like, no, we need to do this. The hosts deserve to have dominion over this planet. But with taking away Bernard's free will, he understands that Bernard is not going to be the guy to lead that fight. And it also feels like in this episode that Maeve, where does her story end?
Yeah, her being, her whole, I guess, encounter with the man in black, and when Lawrence eventually shows up, that was a really great scene. But how she ends the episode, obviously someone's going to fix her. They're not getting rid of Maeve this early, I don't think. But I don't understand what she's doing next. I guess she's going to meet up with Ghost Nation next.
Right, because there are scenes in the trailer that we haven't seen with Maeve. Nash, you have any?
No, because with Maeve, I think Sizemore is going to end up fixing her up, because you can't take Maeve out of the story as it is, and she made that promise that seems to be, the promise about her daughter that seems to be a major plot in the story. So, yeah, you see Sizemore, he actually, hides behind, and then he, looks. I think he's going to end up fixing her or whatnot, and she's going to go encounter with Ghost Nation.
Well, what do you think about Sizemore in this season? The fact that he's come around on the hosts, where he's
grown on me.
He's sympathetic towards them.
Sizemore kind of reminds me of Lucas from Stranger Things, in comparison to that he didn't really trust 11. He was saying, "Oh, it's just a girl, leave it alone, blah blah blah." And then you start to see that he became sympathetic. I feel like that's what Sizemore was like. "Oh, it's just a host. You guys aren't supposed to have a story, something like that." And then you see, when Delos picks up Maeve, he's like, "Oh, be careful with that. We need that one. We need that one."
He says that this one's different.
Yeah, this one's different, where I think he just really likes her at this point and really knows what,
But it doesn't feel like love. It's almost...
No, just more of
platonic.
We've been through some shit.
Like attached. Yeah, right.
That whole scene was wild, because...
Oh, with William?
First of all, how does Maeve miss? Isn't she a super soldier at this point?
You got to keep Ed Harrison.
I know, but...
keep him in the show.
How many
I'm
bullets,
glad he did. What?
How many bullets can William take?
Well, I think he's got to have some sort of...
Vest or something?
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, that also kind of convinced me, what if he's just a host? And it's not a real body?
Him and Maeve both did get clapped up, and they're both still alive. But, that was such a wild scene. Because, when Larry came, I'm like, oh, let's go Lawrence. I call him Larry now.
Okay, I see you.
Did anyone else think his daughter was going to show up and save him? I was convinced it was going to happen until Lawrence showed up.
When you said that, I'm so glad that did not happen.
Hi,
because
Dad.
that would have been...
I was ready for it.
No, but even before that too, when he thinks Ford is using Maeve, it's like, oh, not her, Ford. and Maeve's like, oh, you really think someone's still speaking for me? That's a great scene too. And then Yeah, I was like such an overwhelm because I kind of like the Man in Black. I think he's just a good character. I'm not necessarily rooting for him per se, even though we did get to. He was shown in a sympathetic light a lot this season. But if you're going Maeve, Man in Black, I'm a little, I'm on the fence about that. When Larry came up, I'm like, oh, let's go, Larry. You're saving William, but at the same time, how's Maeve going to get out of this? But I thought that was brilliant the way at first she couldn't get into his mind and he was kind of pushing her off aside, and then she's like, remember, and he remembered all the things that the Man in Black has done to him throughout all these years, and just fucking turns around and shoots him.
Yeah, it's interesting that Maeve can't control the hosts that are quote-unquote awake. That if the hosts are becoming conscious, then Maeve no longer has the ability to control them. And it was interesting, the callback to when William does save Lawrence and his family, and then Ford takes over Lawrence's daughter and says, I know who you really are, I know the things that you've done. And once again, it's those sins coming back to haunt William. Because in this sequence, he tries to tell Lawrence, I just saved you and your family and your whole sorry village. And Lawrence is like, well, sorry, dude, because I'm going to try and kill you.
It's like William literally killed Lawrence. He killed everyone like dozens and dozens of times before
but you're
this
okay
one
now.
time.
It's still in the past, buddy.
Yeah,
Look at you. You look like $1 million.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he's conscious now. So why, like, he remembers the past when he didn't really know anything, and now he remembers, like, I mean, maybe that's what, it's such a tough situation. How do you forgive him, but can you really?
Do you think Lawrence is dead? Last we see of Lawrence?
I hope not.
He's great.
I do like Lawrence, yeah.
I think he's done.
The little roles, and like, obviously you have Ed Harris, Evan Rachel Wood, Danny Newton, Jeffrey Wright, like, tremendous actors, but the smaller roles, the supporting cast in this is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, another small player in this episode, Angela, the host Angela. I think her name is Taluya Riley, the actress who portrays her. But that scene when she blows up the cradle and that speech that she gives where she's talking about the contrast of her personality, like sexy but not intimidating.
How is that guy that stupid?
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
Angela, absolutely stunning woman. She was just trying to fucking kill you.
She did look extra stunning in that scene, though. I was like, did you get like an upgrade? She was looking.
She was just trying to kill you.
She went snack to full course meal in the matter of an episode.
It's like, yeah, but she was just trying to kill you. You're gonna.
She's
literally
bleeding
fall for
out.
that? I mean, and
it's
then
the Theon problem, man.
Yeah.
It's the old chess match like in Seinfeld. I put that in the video. Where
But yeah, I'm shooting I'm trying to.
That's a great. That is a great reference, by the way.
Yeah, when Seinfeld, when his in the brain and
yeah.
the organ are having the old chess match.
Yeah, but
he
that's
lost.
like
I think that could have been.
That's
written.
a normal situation, not where she was just trying to kill you.
I'm not here to defend that scene because even though I think Angela's monologue was beautifully written, it could have been better.
I feel
you
like
could have had that monologue and had that happen in a different way.
That guy was so hyped to like go shoot and kill some hosts, and then he just falls for it like that.
But you could have done like the seduction angle in a way where it was like he was kind of giving in, and then she catches him off guard. But he was like fully embracing it. He was
also like
we're doing
completely
this.
armed. Like he was holding his gun. Like he could have shot her at any time.
Right.
She was bleeding out. He had
Or
just
they
watched
could
her
have
kill
done-
people.
Because he thought that she was trying to leave with the backups, so they could have done.
That's
He
true.
kills her. She falls on him, and he's like, gotcha now. And then she just pulls one of the grenades.
Do you think she
That
was?
is
He's
true.
not expecting
That is true. He's not expecting her to blow. Yeah, you're right.
Do you think she was like depending on that for him to show up? Because she was just standing there watching. I don't think she had any grenades on her before that, or else she would have done it earlier.
I think she was thinking, Dolores, I don't have any grenades. How am I going to do this?
And she was like,
she's
well.
like staring at it like, and then Engels comes in. It's like, hey, beautiful. She's like, gotcha.
I probably would have fell for it.
If Angela turned around and looked at me like that, I would have just been like, I'm on your side.
Yeah, I'm a host now.
Revolution.
Yeah, and Clementine too. I was pretty.
Oh, she had a field day, man.
Yeah, she was going off, but I was pretty upset when she got killed. That's another minor.
Well,
player.
she's coming back too.
Oh, she is coming back.
There's a scene in one of the trailers where you can see her running away from. She's riding a horse and she's riding away from one of the armored buggies.
That whole sequence though, when they're storming the mesa, that was fun. That's a great action sequence too. I
love the motion sensor vests that tell you where the hosts are going to be. That was like laser tag almost. and that sequence where they find Team 2, the response team that was supposed to check on the explosion, and they're all just piled there naked. Holy shit, that's brutal.
Fucking light him up behind him.
Yeah.
Dolores doesn't need armor. She really loves that dress.
She kills that dress, man. I love Dolores. I
know.
I was frustrated with her in the Shogun World episode because I thought she shouldn't have been in that episode because of what happened between her and Teddy. that should have been left for. They should have spent more time on it. But the scenes between her and Hale might be my favorite scenes of the episode.
Yeah, they were great. And even before that, when Hale's like we mentioned before, when she's just degrading Stubbs, just fucking tell him, Hale, you're all about to die. The hosts are coming.
She looked like she was about to tell him before Dolores got there. Kind of reverts.
Well, yeah,
back.
it took him fucking putting a gun at basically her way out of there.
Yeah, those were some pretty intense scenes. And the only scene that I would say would match it, it was a very short scene, but when Ford is telling him, pick up the gun. He's like, no, there's got to be another way. He's like, basically what you guys said.
That was an amazing
like, all right, let me
scene.
What? I'm jumping ahead again?
Yeah.
I thought that was like a wave. I thought you were trying to start the wave.
I'll
No,
start
but that
the
was a
wave.
great
No,
scene,
I'm just
man.
talking
Yeah.
about that's. We were just
The way
talking
that
about
was
scenes,
shot,
so-
man.
Yeah, where
Oh.
it like flashes back and forth between them, like him taking over and what is that?
What is going to happen now?
It's not your fault. And I was like, oh my God.
Bernard's like, oh, fucking god damn it. Yeah, but the sequence, the scenes between Hale and Dolores where Hale is almost trying to say, hey, Dolores, you're doing a great job, buddy. You and your friends are awesome. And Dolores is like, I know what the fuck you're up to.
Yo, she hit him with like, bitch, keep my name out your mouth. Like, when she said Dolores, she was not having any of it. She was frightening in that scene.
She went from
and I
season
loved
1
it.
Dolores to Wyatt in just a split second. She's like, oh, daddy, hey, Dolores, what did you say?
And she was getting cocky. Charlotte was like,
I do like even though I was rooting for Dolores in that scene, but like, who are you rooting for in the show? I like that Hale wasn't afraid, that she didn't back down from Dolores.
My favorite part was when she's talking to her dad and she's like, Dolores, Hale's like, Dolores, and you turn and it's like the way the light is, like that side of her face is actually darker and like
Right.
you can see the transformation. I love that.
they did that with Ford too at the end. It was a great use of lighting and just capturing that moment. Yeah, and he said, I love how Charlotte doesn't give in until she does. But Dolores, like, she realizes that she knows what they're doing and what they have.
Well, I think Dolores kind of knew what the end game would be if she didn't find another way to get it out of her father, because once again, at the end, she makes the decision to sacrifice somebody she loves for the sake of the bigger picture.
Well, no, but like once Dolores reveals she knows what their project is, that's when Charlotte just starts going quivers, like, and she starts crying and she backs and she becomes very.
Well, that
changes
line
on the
too.
dot.
Well, when the cradle is destroyed, and then Abernathy begins to quote Romeo and Juliet, where he says, "One fire burning burns out another." It's basically that you can subdue your pain by causing more pain to somebody else. So Dolores, that's what Dolores is like. Oh, I have to kill my father. You know how I'm going to make sure this doesn't affect me? I'm going to kill you first, Charlotte. I'm going to do the same thing that I have to do to my father.
Doesn't
to
she
you.
say like eye for an eye? And then
Yeah,
she's like,
eye for an
I'm
eye.
gonna literally cut out your actual human brain right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the cradle, like, she feels that actually frees them. Like, she doesn't want that.
Yeah, what do
backup.
you guys think about the philosophical implications of that? That Dolores considered that to be her chains. It's taking away their invincibility.
I kind of like it because it might fit in with like what maybe there's an outside chance of this theory happening, but Ford just wanting to destroy the hosts while destroying the project as well and the weapon. Him just wanting to have complete chaos and just have everything done. And it's interesting because what if like Dolores means to destroy the project while fulfilling Ford's plan in the Valley Beyond? She just destroys everything. Every good cult leader ends with mass suicide, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is history.
So
Just to back you up on that too, I mean, even Ford turns around. I think it's season 1, episode 10, the finale. He turns around and he's like, "Well, what would you do if I just turned around and destroyed all my toys?"
Right.
This could be something where it's all everybody's just destroying everybody and alluding to what Aaron's trying to say.
teaching a lesson, you know?
Yeah.
You can't have nice things. You guys ruin everything.
Well, that line too, when Ford's in control of Bernard and they're in the control center, and he talks about the great fire burning, when that all the stories weren't lost, they just became the story of the fire, and that man has an affinity for striking a match to something that he sees to be beautiful, that he perceives as beautiful. And going back to the episode, I think it's Reunion, where Logan is having the conversation with Dolores during James Delos' retirement party, and he's like, "That's fools fiddling while the world burns," and the funniest part is that they struck the match. It makes you think, how much did Logan know about Delos' project?
And by the way, strike the match. I love how the synopsis of each episode on HBO Go was just strike the match. That's the whole
Yeah.
synopsis.
That's been all season.
I know,
It's just
I fucking
like
love
one
it.
sentence. Last season, it was like every fucking detail. Game of Thrones started doing that in season 7. It's like John travels.
I love it. No, that's Game of Thrones. Everything. It's like
Yeah. But I would disagree that Ford wants to I think he does want the hosts to win. He says to Bernard that I'm here to give you guys a fighting chance. And I think it's just his last. It's like, hey, remember him from season 1? He was awesome. He's going to help them a
But
little
that
bit
could just
more.
be his purpose. He calls Delos his nasty little project. He obviously does not think that humans should have this ability. And
Right,
he's just
definitely.
using the host as an end to a mean, maybe. He can't do it on his own. He has to use the host to destroy it. By creating all this chaos, basically.
I think that would be a little. I wouldn't like those motivations. That he just wants chaos. It's just,
I think he really
he's using
wants the host to win, but if they don't, he's like, okay.
He's using the chaos as a way to maybe reveal to the world like what happened here, all this crazy stuff, what they were trying to accomplish, and that humanity shouldn't be able to have this power. The only way for me to destroy it at this point is I have an army of hosts at my disposal, and I can use them as an ends to a mean.
Hopefully not.
You know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it could be a possibility.
We can only guess at Ford's motivations.
I love how Ford is just straight Joker from Arkham Knight now.
Yeah.
Well,
The way they shot that was very well done.
it's great. And once Ford leaves into Bernard, the Cradle's back online. The system's running well. They're saying whatever's in there is out now. I love that. It's just showing Ford was basically creating a blockade until Bernard is able to access him.
And the line that Dolores has to Hale, where she says that your quest for eternity is going to die in the valley with all the souls that you've gathered there. It goes back to the valley beyond, the flooded valley. Do you guys think that's the same place? Because it's kind of in the western side of the park. It's by the ocean.
All right, so we don't know what the Valley Beyond is yet, right? Because I feel like I feel
the
like
way that I read the scene is that all the souls that you've gathered there, it's like all the people that you tried to turn into hosts.
Well, I'm just saying, has it been said yet? Because I feel like it has been, but I've been too proud of myself to like go back and say I don't know what it is.
The coordinates that Bernard gives to Strand at the end of the episode, where he says Sector 16, Zone 4, that's the flooded valley. And then Strand says, looks like we're going back to the valley beyond.
Okay. I just hope, I just didn't want to be like, oh, I missed
And then
it.
Mailing says that they're draining the valley, so maybe something was hidden there. And what hasn't been brought up since episode 2 is the construction site from the flashback with William and Dolores.
It could be under
Right.
the water, so.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The gathered souls could be the hosts that we saw in the flooded valley, or it could be humans that were trying to become hosts.
I just think it means death, simply. The valley beyond. That's what I just keep thinking, because
As I walk through a valley of a shadow with death.
I don't, for some reason, I just think
Hit
that they're
that
just
beat, boy.
like yeah, it might be something, but I think that's supposed to symbolize like death. Like everybody's going to the valley beyond, like the next life after, which this was supposed to be the point of it. I don't know. That's just the impression I get, and I think it is where that scene where Bernard is like, "I killed them all," and you kind of see them all like floating. That's where I would have to take a guess that it would be.
Yeah, in the 2-week later timeline, Dolores hasn't shown up yet. So everybody is assuming that she's escaped the park. And that's where, at the end of the episode, when she rides away with her father's control unit, she's whipping that horse, and she's got a maniacal smile on her face like, yeah, we getting out of here.
You know what's interesting, too? Peter snaps out of it right as Dolores is going to kill Hale. You think that's just coincidence, or maybe he did it on purpose? He's trying to save Hale? Or he's like, Dolores. Daddy?
Yeah, that could... She does go back to the southern accent whenever he's like, I'm going to murder
That was pretty
Dolores.
good.
Thanks.
That was really good.
I don't... Like, you're saying basically it was...
It's pretty good timing.
Right.
It happens all the time.
That's not a coincidence.
It happens all the time in film and everything. It just builds suspense and, character armor. But it feels like the show might be above that a little.
Yes. They always take the cliches of the genre and just completely subvert them.
We talked about Teddy. The guy's a fucking machine.
Is Coughlin dead?
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
Punch him into a fucking pulp.
Okay, I wasn't sure if Coughlin was dead.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
I was like, maybe a couple more
Even
punches.
if he walks in on Stubbs, he's just too quick for him. He's just fucking right back on him.
He just looks better as a badass.
Yeah, he does.
He's got to keep the fucking SWAT armor.
Yeah, and he looks like Batman.
I kind of wish he was still wearing the hat though.
The hat with like all the high tech armor.
So high tech armor, cowboy hat.
Yeah,
that would have been gangster. That's like a GTA outfit, man, where you just mix match clothes. The scene between Maeve and Dolores. It was interesting because Dolores almost takes a page out of Maeve's book where she says, "You can follow your path, even though you're probably going to die, and I'm sad that this is the path that you've chosen." So it's interesting that she's saying that the kin that they gave us is just a leash that keeps us down, but then she's like, all right, you can go try and find your daughter.
Maeve tells Dolores that she's lost in the dark, and I was just waiting for her to go, oh, you think darkness is your ally? I was molded by the darkness. born. I don't know if that's the right line, but you get the gist. Yeah, it is a great scene. Like she kind of just leaves it there. I thought she was gonna shoot her, but obviously, like we said, Maeve's just too much of an important character just to kill off like that. So.
What do you think that says about Dolores' character? In one moment, it's like, yeah, you have to follow everything that I say. And the other moment, it's like, well, Maeve, you're one of the main characters. I'll just let you.
Well, it's been like that the whole time. I think I mentioned
She did let her go free earlier in the season, too.
But I think I mentioned in a past pod, it was like, she's always switching between that Wyatt and Dolores. Like, she's her dad, she's back to Dolores. And she's a fucking maniacal, murderous cult leader. And then she has show sympathy. She's kind of like switching between the two sides. I kind of want her just to be one character that can show sympathy, but that's not afraid to do what's necessary, which I kind of feel like she...
That's what I feel like she is.
Yeah, I feel like she is now, but it's always like she has to switch to Dolores to be that sympathetic character, and when she's
in the
Wyatt...
Maeve scene, it felt like a nice balance between the two.
That was the first time I've kind of seen that, because, like I said, when she's sympathetic, she's Dolores. When she's not, she's kind of Wyatt. That one, she kind of felt like a divergence of both, which I liked.
Yeah, and I love these scenes when it's two people that are just on opposite sides of the spectrum of...
Really? You like those type of scenes?
I love these type of scenes, and it was a great conversation between them. I'm just wondering, where does Maeve's story go from here? It's like we said, we've seen her in more shots in the trailers.
Hope she meets up with a Nard dog.
We know her daughter was taken by Ghost Nation. Ghost Nation is the focus for the next episode, so I'm assuming Maeve goes to find her daughter. She has her promise to keep, like Nash was saying earlier. Yeah. Ghost Nation seems to be her next destination.
And that next episode looks like we're going to get some good insight.
Yeah, before we go to the next episode, too, did we talk about Bernard and when he's killing everyone? We kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
I just also want to, I'm sorry to cut you off. I still want to touch up on Dolores and Maeve quick.
Yeah, go.
With Dolores and Maeve, I feel like Dolores is more of a respect factor with her because she also goes to turn around and say, like, a woman like you. Whenever they cross paths, it's always like, you can get out of my... Yeah, right. It's kind of like when Dirk Nowitzki hit a game winner, and Kobe's on the bench and, slaps him on the ass and shows him respect. He just, it's respect. Game respects game.
Can you send me that video?
Yeah.
Slow motion, please.
Yeah, the line, too, when she says, it's almost like she's kind of disappointed in Maeve. She's like, the woman that I knew would have never let herself get captured.
She didn't let herself get captured. She got fucking lit up by SWAT teams.
But I think Dolores thinks in that moment that she's consoling her, but she's still, it's like a backhanded, it's like, wow, you used to be so awesome. What happened to you?
And it's like Dolores didn't just spend the last few episodes manically searching for her dad. And she's like gonna fault Maeve for trying to find her daughter.
I think the difference is that her dad had something that was useful to her.
Like, it was her father. I feel like it was like obviously a motivating factor in that case.
Well, real quick, when I might have missed this, but when Bernard shuts down the remaining system or whatever, and he says now this will give Dolores free reign, is that just in the scope of the park that she can leave the park?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
The final scene that I wanted to mention is when he's being interrogated again by Hale, and he gives them the information about where her father's control unit is, and we see a flash to a scene that we've yet to see in season 2, where it looks like he's holding Abernathy's control unit. But what's interesting about this scene is that he whispers the information to Hale, then Hale looks up, brings the other guys into the room, and then he says it aloud.
Yeah.
He told Hale something different.
It had to have, because it's... Why would you do that? It's wasting it on the audience. I mean, it's...
The more I see of her, the more I'm like, she's cooking something up, man.
I love it.
I mean, Tessa Thompson, she's great.
Hope
she's a great antagonist.
Yeah, she is.
She's Littlefingering.
If she wins the whole thing,
ooh, give me that.
Just sells it to China. God, that would be such a terrible ending. Here's $10 billion, Charlotte Hale. We rule the world.
Dr. Evil thing.
I
the
Grandmaster.
Be like, oh, well, that was a weird
Jeff
ending.
Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
If Jeff Goldblum is the third party, I'm actually starting to buy into this. I think that's my next theory video.
It's the beginning of Thor Ragnarok.
What the hell happened?
All right, I think we've been itching. I think Marissa's been itching to get for the next episode.
Ghost Nation.
I love that. Giving some fucking story to Ghost Nation, and this guy looks like he's way ahead of everyone.
It seems like he's been conscious.
Yes, definitely.
Like he's been conscious for a long time, and it seems his inciting moment was around the time Arnold killed himself.
He's gonna be around everyone's like, I've been conscious. You guys just got this shit. I've had this shit.
I've been woke.
Oh man, he's like the Flintstones coming up to settle the debate between Family Guy and The Simpsons. It's like, I've been doing this for years, boys.
I know how to handle this one.
Yeah,
All right?
go ask
I know-
Barney Rubble.
Are they saying that's not a different park, right? It's not like native park, native land.
No, I think it's Westworld.
It feels like they just found like their own remote area, and there's
But that's the same host that was with Angela when they were pitching the host to Logan in episode 2, Akishita.
Yep.
So he's one of the oldest, man. He's one of the OGs. And I'm done doubting Westworld when they present something that seems to be random, because it feels like this is going to be an entire episode for Ghost Nation. That
Love
we're
it.
going to get a lot of the answers as to what they're doing. Because
I'm really interested in it too, like what they've presented to us so far.
do you like that though? That it's been basically no hints as to their motivations, but now they're
Love
just
it.
going to
Love
lay
it.
it all
Love it.
in one swoop.
because everyone's asking, like people are tweeting like, "Oh, you guys should make a Ghost Nation video." Like, buddy, we don't know what the fuck they're doing either.
Because there are no hints.
No.
I like it, but I feel like definitely season 1, I feel like they didn't think they were going to do anything with Ghost Nation. And now they're like, this season, I think they started thinking, yes, Ghost Nation is going in this direction, because we've seen more of them. Definitely. We've gotten more hints towards it. I think season 1, they weren't expecting it.
And even some of their decisions in season 1, it was like they're helping Dolores and William 30 years ago, but then they're kidnapping Stubbs, and then they can't be controlled. It was inconsistent.
I
their
think it
actions.
played a lot into the whole like natives or savages kind of deal, which is not the greatest thing in the world, but I feel like this episode, like what they're doing now, will redeem it, and I'm really excited for
Oh,
it.
like in the park, they're stereotyping
Yeah.
natives. That's okay. That's Ghost Nation, and yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there's more to them, and I can't wait to see it.
Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah.
Especially, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, it's a tough angle to see when you're gonna go talk.
I'll talk.
Oh God. No, I'm just real quick. I'm interested to see the storyline of where they like always seem to come and attack Maeve and steal the daughter and stuff. Doesn't that always just seem to like?
Finally got her.
Yeah.
I think they were saying we need to kidnap this woman's daughter if we're ever going to get her on our team. It's like the situation with Abernathy. It's a honeypot. They're just luring her in so then they can say, "Hey, you want to be our leader?
Yeah. There's got to
We'll
be
give
a
you your daughter back."
yeah. There's got to be a reason behind it where they always just go for the daughter.
And I think
we
we're
don't
going to
know
see
anything.
a lot of scenes from. I think it's possible they could go back to 30 years ago with William and Dolores, why they were helping them.
I still don't think they were helping them. I think that was just caught in a narrative.
Maybe, but I think it could possibly that they can touch on that. They're going to touch on maybe Akishita, the way that he was created, and it seems that he has a daughter.
I thought was that his daughter or his wife?
Okay, that was his wife.
I wasn't sure.
Okay,
I was assuming wife. It seemed something happened to her, and he sees the cleanup crew. And then when he like wakes up and slowly opens his eyes in the
because
facility,
they saw them as the god. Oh, the Arnold thing. That's interesting too because he's going back and he's retracing the suicide of Arnold.
and see, like there's a scene, right? Obviously,
He's
we
in the
don't
bar.
know if it's memory or not, but he's literally like leaning down next to Arnold's
And
dead
then-
Oh,
body.
is he?
And it flashes to
Okay.
Ford. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
This guy's. What the hell is
And
he
then
doing?
Jon Snow popped up. And then they opened the door and it was Game of Thrones world. I think season 2, I would just give overall thoughts on this episode. I thought it was one of the best episodes of the season. Probably not better than Riddle of the Sphinx. That's probably still number 1.
Oh, I love that episode. Season 2's picked up, man. I wasn't too hot on it first few. It's really
It's
it's going.
I can't wait for these next 3 episodes.
What a great fucking cast.
Oh, it's the Evan Rachel Wood calls it the acting Olympics.
I was trying to do like a mock starting 5 for like a basketball team. Like who do I want a team? I'm like, oh no, I gotta make a fucking baseball team.
Oh, with Westworld.
And I did map that whole baseball team and for their attributes to what position it would be and why they would bat in each order.
You want to like say your Twitter so that people can go see that over there?
No, it can't even fit on Twitter because I have deep explanations and they all fit in perfectly.
Oh, you could do
it's quite a
notes
thing.
and like post a different page of your notes as an image. That's usually
Yeah.
what people do for longer messages or start a blog. We still have a website, right?
Do we?
I don't know, I forgot my password.
Why don't you just make a podcast?
Who even are you?
That's a good ending. So what did you guys think, Nash and Marissa? Overall thoughts on the episode?
I always cut you off. So you go ahead.
Episode 6 and this episode together, I thought were like a perfect duo, as far as setup and then like the satisfaction, I guess, of that setup. I really enjoyed it. Like you said, I don't think it's better than Riddle of the Sphinx because Riddle of the Sphinx is such a nice contained episode as far as like an internal arc goes. But for this one, like everything it picked up from episode 6, I felt was realized perfectly, and now what we're gonna get next episode, like I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this episode has you. I can't wait for Sunday. Or usually I'll wait until Monday or Tuesday to watch it, so I'm fresh for the podcast. But
Because you're drunk on Sundays.
that's true. Sundays are my Saturdays. I'm off, whatever. I'm not going to talk about my job description anyway. But no, which I just like this episode for the fact that all the character storylines seem to entail when you really didn't see Hale and Dolores together was fantastic. I thought Hale was going to die, but it makes no sense.
So many characters in this episode that I thought were going to die.
Yeah, but it would make no sense because it's 2 weeks later she's still there,
Right.
Hale. But the acting was so good. The acting was so good you didn't even recognize that, and and yeah, this has got me so ready for next week, and I got to know Ford's plan. I got to know what's going on with that, and that's really bothering me.
I kind of feel like they'll never tell us.
I really think Ford, they brought him back for this episode, maybe the next episode, because there's a shot where he's talking to William in one of the next episodes. So maybe he's like talking through Bernard, and they're just visually showing us Ford.
Right.
I'm more excited to figure out what's at the Valley Beyond, and how the fuck did Dolores skedaddle from the park? That's the one thing. That's why I keep saying that I know where it's going, but I don't know what's going to happen when it gets there. Whereas in season 1, I had no idea where anything was going.
The last season of season 2 could be like fucking Dolores at a McDonald's, like in the middle of fucking New York City.
With Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
I
It's like
have
the
the
end
package.
of Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
I've been thinking the Valley Beyond this whole time has been where they create the human hosts and then they kind of like let them loose in the park and let them and test them for a little bit, and then Dolores is like, I'm gonna destroy everything and all the souls you've gathered there, and then they're gone.
I really don't want Maeve and her daughter to escape the park because the kid is never gonna age. And how do you just like sell that to people? You're gonna have neighbors, and it's gonna
You
be like
visit
10
a
years.
mechanic.
What?
It'd be like Maggie in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Well, there goes my point. Thanks, Nash.
I'm
That's your
sorry.
last podcast.
All right. Thanks for having me.